The other night, had my friend Appalachian Highlander on for a stream. It's a good show. And in the chat we were talking about things that affect our people here in the hollers. And one thing in the chat, and that we talked about, is how often our people are, slandered by the media. Oh, look at those deer. Well, I doubt you could see them. Missed my shot there. Damn it. Anyway, we're often looked down upon here in Appalachia as being uneducated, as being hicks, as being just backward, Well, I've said before too that stereotypes exist for a reason. There's always some truth in any stereotype, yet when it comes to stereotypes, if you ever stereotype, rural, working class, usually southern or Appalachian whites, it's totally acceptable. Yet if, you stereotype any minority or diversity, they'll come down on you very quickly. But let me take a seat here and we'll talk a little more about this. Now, I'm sure that there are some people that probably look down upon me that watches these videos. They think that I'm stupid, I guess, because I talk with a hillbilly twang, I speak slow, I'm crude, I curse often, whatever. It doesn't really bother me. Doesn't really. I'm fine with people underestimating me. Always have been. I like to be underestimated because it makes things easier. But I figured today what I will do is a little bit of intellectual flexing on these types of people. Something I've never talked about on this channel. I might have mentioned it, but it's my love of chess when I was younger. Although I will say, over the last 4 years, I believe I've only played 4 games. It's about to start raining here. Let me go inside and we'll talk more about this. So this video is going to be a little different than my normal video. We're going to talk about chess. We're going to look at a couple of defenses and openings or attacks I would use if I was playing, depends on whether I was playing white or black. We're also going to look at an old world champion by the name of Alexander Alekhine. Now, all of us in this, we know who based Bobby Fischer was, of course. He had his huge world championship match against his friend, his good friend and opponent, Boris Spassky, back in 1972. Probably the most popular world championship chess match ever. It was viewed as, the United States versus the USSR. We all know of based Bobby and what he thought of the you-know-whoish tribe. Even though he himself, on his mother's side, had you-know-whoish blood, he always seen them for what they were. We all know about based Bobby Fischer, but a lot of people, and I only learned this, I guess, about last week, is what about Alexander Alekhine? I'm going to read an article to you and we'll talk further about that whenever I make it back home here in a little bit. Now, like I said, my dad taught me how to play chess when I was 6 years old. Just finished kindergarten. My younger brother, who is 5 years younger than me, he taught how to play when he was 5 years old. And unfortunately for myself, I quit taking chess very seriously. I quit playing a whole lot whenever I was about 14 years old. I didn't want to be perceived as a dork in high school. And at that time, I focused a lot more of my time and energy on athletics, played baseball and football. Looking back on it, I regret that kinda, because we took chess really seriously. My family did. My dad, me, and my younger brother. You wouldn't believe the number of kids that my dad, between me, my dad, and my younger brother, you wouldn't believe how many kids we taught how to play chess up in the holler when I was growing up. When I was, and see, Dad, he would buy books, chess books. I've played over the games of all sorts of champions and grandmasters. I've played over the games, of course, of Bobby Fischer, Alexander Alekhine, Jose Raul Capablanca, the Cuban world champion, Max Yu, Anatoly Karpov, Garry Kasparov, the former world champion, Russian world champion, who's a globalist shill. I believe the current grandmaster, the current world champion is Magnus Carlsen of Norway. Tigran Petrosian, the Armenian master, Boris Spassky that I mentioned earlier. All these types, Chess has a really interesting history. But when Dad bought these books, and I learned all these different openings and defenses, the theories behind them, studied a lot, and I played often. But when I was about 11 years old, my dad got me my United States Chess Federation membership, so I could start going to tournaments with him to play. He would travel down to Johnson City, Tennessee, or Kingsport. We have to drive a ways. We grew up in an extremely rural area in the middle of nowhere, so we had to drive a good ways to go to a chess tournament. He started going to those tournaments probably when I was around 8. And when I was 11, it would have been back in 1998, he took me to my first tournament. It was an adults tournament. It was rated. In chess, they give you an ELO rating. A grandmaster usually has a rating of about 2,500. I think Bobby Fischer had the record for the highest ELO rating of, I think it was 2881. Kasparov was second. He was maybe 7 or 8 points behind. Anyways, before this tournament, though, my dad had told me about a particular opponent he had. It was a Vietnamese guy. He was probably about my dad's age at the time, in his late 30s, early 40s. And he was very good. And my dad had played him several times over the year and a half or so before I finally went. We went to that tournament in Johnson City that Saturday. In a tournament, you play 4 games. The first game, I was extremely nervous. First time I'd ever been playing in a tournament. And I lost, of course. I lost to a guy with a rating of about 1,500. And my dad, for the first game of that tournament, my dad was rated about, I think he was rated about 1,400 or 1,500 as well. He drew in that first game, of course, Hugh Phan, that Vietnamese guy. And he lost to him. And luck would have it that in the second game, I would draw Hugh Fan myself. And I think Hugh Fan sorely underestimated me. I'll show you what defense I played against him whenever I return home. So yeah, I ended up avenging my old man in that game. Hugh Fan, he was rated, I believe, around 17 or 1800. And he really underestimated me, you know. As the game progressed, I think he realized that, you know, this 11-year-old who was at his first tournament knew what he was doing. You know, the game went on, and I think he made some mistakes, obviously, as the game progressed. And near the end of it, everyone else had finished, everyone gathered around us. I was really nervous, but really excited, and he ended up resigning. And I don't even remember the last two games of the tournament. I lost both of them. But after it, you know, Hugh Fan, he was gracious in defeat, shook my hand, we had a laugh about it, and after the tournament, my dad told me he was really proud of me, you know. I avenged my old man, you know. I was really proud of that. But I'm going to nerd out now, and you'll have to forgive me. I like to nerd out on things sometimes. I'm going to show you, have a little lesson here. I bought this cheap board yesterday, just for the purpose of this video. I haven't played, like I said, but 4 games the last 4 years, and it was all last year. Apollonian Germ was kind enough to invite me onto one of his streams to play a game of chess, and I ended up winning. Now Germ, we both discovered it is ridiculously tough to try to stream and play a game of chess. And then later that evening, me and him got together and we played 3 other games, and I ended up winning those as well, although he should have won the last one. We were playing online, of course, and sometimes when you're clicking a piece and moving it somewhere, you'll make a mistake. You'll misclick, and, you know, he made that mistake, and I ended up winning that one as well. Germ is a really good player, though. He is the kind of player that always gave me a fit, because he's the type of player that comes out of the gate swinging. Myself, I like to, you know, develop my pieces, get my structure, and then go on the attack. He just comes out of the gate immediately swinging. In the game we played on that stream, I'll try to remember to put a link to it in the box below. He was 1 move away from checkmate, probably just 12 or 13 moves into the game. And I was, you know, extremely worried. I'm like, I'm going to get blown out right here. But I traded queens. I remember the position quite well, and I ended up weathering the storm to hold on for the win. But another link that I'm going to put in the box below is my friend Blackbird9. He's got his own podcast, his own website, and probably about a month or so ago, he did a really good podcast on Bobby Fischer. But first, I'm going to show you a little lesson here. Sorry, I might be boring some of you guys, but if you look at a chessboard, beginning position, you know, you've got your rook, knight, bishop, king, queen, pawns. Since I'm on the black side, you know, it goes like a grid. This is the A file, B file, C file, D file, E file, F file, G file, H file. And then you've got your x-axis, I guess you could say. This is the first rank, second rank, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth. If you look at a board, what's the weakest square on the entire board? You know, hopefully you know how to play chess. You know, if you don't, I apologize. I'd like to be able to teach people, but I don't think I'd have the time to. But if you look at a board, the two weakest squares is F2, right here, this pawn, because the only piece that protects it is the king. No other piece protects it. And then here on black, it is F7. Only the king protects it. But Hugh Fan, he opened with pawn to D4. And whenever I was confronted with this, when I was playing black, I would always use the King's Indian defense, which is knight to F6, pawn to G6, bishop to G7, and then I would castle on the king's side. This right here, this formation, is called fianchetto, and it's something that I commonly use even when I was playing white. Let me flip the board around here without knocking everything over. When I was playing white, I would always use either, 9 out of 10 times I would play pawn to E4. Or I would play knight to F3. And what I would play, depending on the situation, depending on what black responded with, I would play the King's Indian attack, which is knight to F3. You fianchetto like you do on the King's Indian defense. Oh shit. Knocking stuff over here. Damn it. Kind of hard to film and actually handle all these pieces quickly. Or I would play the Ruy Lopez, which is, you don't fianchetto there. Black will play E5. Then you will play knight to F3, and a lot of times they play knight to C6, and then I would play bishop to B5. Or sometimes instead of playing bishop to B5, I would play bishop to C4, which would attack, as we see here, it would attack F7 right out the gate. That is called the Guico piano. A little different than the Ruy Lopez. But anyway, what I played against Hugh Fan was called the Leningrad Dutch. It's a variation of the Dutch defense, and it's really risky. It's an aggressive defense. He played, like I said, D4. It's like an accelerated version of the King's Indian defense. You play F5. But a lot of masters don't really like playing the Leningrad Dutch. And from there, once you play F5, you play knight to F6, G6, bishop to G7, and then you castle. Oh, the reason why a lot of masters do not like this defense is because it leaves this file completely open. F7 is completely wide open. Your opponent, like say, white plays there or there, E3 or E4, they get this bishop out, it's immediately, there's check. So, this is what I used against Hugh Fan, and it worked out extremely well. You know, I'm not going to bore you with any more chess lessons or any more chess stories. Might talk about some more in perhaps later videos. Now for the second part of this video, we're going to talk about the champion Alexander Alekhine. He was born in Moscow in the year 1892, actually on Halloween Day, October the 31st, 1892. However, after the Red Revolution in 1921, Alekhine fled from the Soviet Union, and I believe he fled to France. And because in the later years, leading up to World War II, he played on the French team. Let's see. In January of 1940, and like I said, you know, Alekhine, he did some pretty, he was the world champion, like I said, I don't think I said it yet. He was world champion originally from, I believe, 1927 when he defeated Jose Raul Capablanca. He lost the title in 1935 to Max Euwe, the Dutch Grandmaster. And then in 1937 he regained the title by defeating Euwe, and he held the title from 1937 until 1946 in his death. He is the only chess champion that passed away, that died while holding the world title. But we're going to look at Alexander Alekhine and his actions during World War II. Let's see, in this article here, in January of 1940, Alekhine returned to Europe with his wife and 2 cats. Alekhine was married to a woman chess master whose name was Grace Alekhine. Some have speculated that she had Jewish ancestry, although it's not confirmed. She was certainly a never practicing Jew. She didn't practice Judaism. She was raised Christian. I believe she was raised Episcopalian. But let me click back here. Yeah, he returned to Europe with his wife and 2 cats. After staying a month in Portugal giving simultaneous exhibitions, he returned to France and enlisted in the French army as a non-commissioned officer. He started out as a sanitation officer, owing to his knowledge of foreign languages. He was soon transferred to intelligence work and became an interpreter. He was a lieutenant interpreter for the French army. After the fall of France in late June 1940, all French military personnel, including Alekhine, were formally put under the control of the German High Command. Many were interred as prisoners of war. Alekhine was in an unoccupied zone with his section near Arcachon, near Bordeaux, when Paris fell. He was later demobilized at Marseille. In July 1940, while in Marseille, he cabled Havana at the Cuban consulate in an attempt to open negotiations with Capablanca for a world championship match. Capablanca later claimed that Alekhine was not being serious for a world championship match and that Alekhine was only trying to obtain an exit visa from France. Let's see. I'll skip down here. It's really hard to tell if Alekhine was or wasn't one of our guys and aware of certain things. I'll jump ahead here to on March the 18th through the 23rd, 1941, 6 anti-Semitic articles appeared under Alekhine's name and published in the Pariser Zeitung. I cannot pronounce any of these names, I apologize. The Paris Journal. He argued that there was a Jewish way of playing chess, cowardly and for money, and also by playing extremely defensively and just waiting for your enemy, for your opponent, to make a mistake. And then there was an Aryan way of playing chess, which is aggressive and brave, attacking, ceaselessly attacking. A part of these articles were published in the April, May, and June 1941 issues of the German chess magazine Deutsche Schachzeitung. Like I said, I'm butchering this, I'm sure. His first article on Jewish and Aryan chess appeared on March the 21st, 1941 in Deutsche Zeitung in Den Niederlander, butchering it, German news in the Netherlands. Alekhine's anti-Semitic articles were published in France, Holland, and Germany. The articles tried to show proof that Jews played defensive, cowardly chess and the Aryan chess players played attacking chess that was aggressive and brave. He had hoped that after the death of Emanuel Lasker, that Lasker would be the last of the Jewish chess champions of the world. I believe the first 2 champions were Jewish. Wilhelm Steinitz was the first world chess champion. He was a Jew. And then Emanuel Lasker defeated him, I think 6 years into him holding his title, to become the second world champion and also the second Jewish champion. Alekhine defined Jewish chess as material profit at all costs. It was opportunism at its best. it was defended at all costs. He claimed that there had never been a real chess artist of Jewish origin. He mentioned that the representatives of Aryan chess included Philidor, Labourdonnais, Anderson, Paul Morphy, Chigorin, Pillsbury, Marshall, Capablanca, Bogoljubov, Yu, Iliskassis, and Karras. For Jewish players, there was only Steinitz and Lasker. Let's see, I'll jump forward here. In September of 1941, Alekhine spoke proudly of his chess articles on Jewish chess for the Madrid paper El Alcazar. In an interview quoted in the Madrid paper on September the 3rd, 1941, Alekhine said he was proud of his articles that were published in Pariser Zeitung. Alekhine gave 2 exhibitions and several interviews during this period. And we're going to jump forward to, this article's quite long. I'll put a link to this article in the box below as well. We're going to jump forward to his death, actually. As the war progressed, he was able to travel around much less due to, the Germans losing the war effort. Let's see. He was in Spain for a good portion of the later years of the war. And after the war, Alekhine was accused of converting to Nazi racial doctrines. He was also accused of actively collaborating with the enemy. Alekhine was not invited to any post-World War II chess tournament due to his affiliation with the Nazis. In December of 1945, he wrote a letter to the organizer of the London Victory Tournament, W. Hatton Ward, denying that he ever wrote any article about Jews and Aryan chess. See, this is something that he claimed he never done. In March of 1946, he died in a hotel in Estoril, which is a town outside of Lisbon, Portugal, after choking on a piece of meat. Some say he did not choke, but died of a stroke or heart attack. He had been sitting in a chair with a pocket-pegged chess set beside him, analyzing a chess position after eating dinner alone. He was only 53 years old. A day after Alekhine's death, a letter arrived inviting him to England for an Alekhine-Botvinnik match. The Soviet Union, the Russian Grandmaster Mikhail Botvinnik. The doctor, and this is where it gets a little strange, the doctor who wrote the official death certificate, Dr. Antonio Ferreira, later denied that Alekhine died by choking or even a heart attack. The doctor told his friends that Alekhine had actually been shot and murdered. The doctor said that the Portuguese government put pressure on him to complete the death certificate to show that Alekhine died of a heart attack and was not murdered to avoid any controversy. There is speculation that Alekhine was murdered by a French resistance secret death squad who targeted French citizens who collaborated with the Germans. In 1956, the manuscripts of the 6 Nazi articles appeared in Grace Weishard's, which was his wife, personal effects. They were all in Alexander Alekhine's handwriting. So it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell if Alexander Alekhine was aware of things or not. I tend to think that he probably was. Especially that last sentence in the article saying that they were all in Alexander's handwriting. Although later he denied it, I think, as a way to try to get back into playing chess after being ostracized during the war. It's really hard to tell. But I think the way he described it in those articles, I've played over a few of the games of Lasker and Steinitz in the past, and they did have a very defensive and sometimes boring style of play compared to Alekhine himself and some of the other grandmasters that he mentioned. But anyways, just some food for thought, something a little different. I apologize if this video has been a tremendous bore. Just something interesting I came across last week and wanted to talk about. I would like to get back into playing chess. I'm extremely rusty. Like I said, I've only played 4 games the last 4 years probably. It's been well over a year since I've actually played a game. I do have a chess.com account. And if any of you were to ever perhaps want to play, you can email me at southernnordic@protonmail.com. And you know, it's difficult for me to... I've got a lot of things going on right now. But who knows? Perhaps maybe we could get together and play a game one of these days. You know, I'd like to get back into it because, you know, chess, it sharpens your mind. You know, you have to be calculating, creative. It also helps with your memory. But anyways, thank y'all for watching. Bye-bye.